All right, let's talk about how to progress your overhead press on the NLP. And just as I talked about in the squat, make sure number one, your form is good. Make sure number two, you are training consistently. So with the press, you start off the same way as you would with the squat. You work up to a moderately challenging weight that you can do with good form for your first ever session. Always err on the side of being a little bit conservative on the presses. You want a lot of time practicing and getting used to this movement. So we start off with 3 sets of 5, and you add 5 pounds every single time you press. Now you're alternating the press and the bench press. So you're pressing one day, and then the next day you're benching, and then the next training session you're pressing, so on and so forth. So know that those are that alternating fashion is happening. Once that starts getting heavy for men, this is for the average individual. Sometimes 2.5 pound jumps and 1 pound jumps are necessary for older, decrepit individuals, bad shoulders, low body weight, women, stuff like that. But if you're a normal guy, 5 pound jumps is fine at the beginning. Once this starts getting heavy and you start showing signs of grinding, we do 2.5 pound jumps. Now, there is a certain subset of people who are really resistant to small jumps like this. They think it's dumb. But if you want to progress your press farther than you think you can, you do want to take these 2.5 pound jumps. So that's your first change. Step 2, take a 2.5 pound jumps every single time you press, and you can bleed that out for a while. Once you get to the point, you're going to start missing the press. And you don't want to practice missing your presses very much. So as soon as you're getting close to missing, or you do miss, we're going to switch to what I call get 15. So within 3 to 5, maybe 6 or so total sets, you get 15 total reps, and you try not to miss anything. So at the beginning stages of this, it could very easily be that you do 5 reps, and then you get 5 reps, and then you get 4 reps, and then you have to get the last single. Pretty soon that becomes a set of 5, and then it becomes a set of 4, and then it becomes a set of 3, and a set of 2, and then it becomes a set of 4, and a set of 3, and a 3, and a 3, and a 2, and then it becomes a 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, and so on and so forth. You're just getting 15 reps. Now, by the time you start getting to where you're doubling and singling those, you want to try to avoid that as much as you can. Again, we don't want to miss reps, nor does the 15, it doesn't do you any good to do 15 singles, because that would take forever. That's 30 minutes of pressing if you take a couple minutes between each one, and ain't nobody got time for that when they have to do the other lifts. So make the change nice and soon, and we get into what can be done, what can be called a Texas method, and you can run this one of 2 ways. You can run this on a 4-day split, so an upper lower 4-day split, or you can run it every other session, and that works fine. That works really well too. So on the NLP, if you're used to training 3 times a week, you're just alternating again. So day 1, you're gonna take 7 to 8 singles, okay, across. And every time you have this, what would be called an intensity day, you try to add a little bit of weight to it and hit those 7 to 8 singles. Now, eventually with that intensity day, you're gonna come to a point where, just based on whatever other factors are, it's hard to just hold one weight across. So you can set a range. So it can be okay, between 215 and 225, I'm getting 8 singles today. And then you kind of move that range up throughout the weeks while you're doing it. But you have to bully this intensity day along. You have to bully your presses along by doing them heavy and often, practicing those singles. And then you have a volume day. 80% of your singles, a 5x5. This can start getting really heavy too, but it should track up very well along with the singles. And you can alternate those 2 things for a very long time. Eventually, as you progress and get into more intermediate training, you can keep the intensity day. You can do pin presses. You can, do various rep schemes, work triples, work doubles, work whatever it is that you want. And then you can adjust even, I've had lifters go to sets of 3 to 5 sets of 5 to 8 reps on the volume day, works fine, okay? Another thing that I have done as well is introducing a medium day. So your cycle would go, you have your intensity day, you have your volume day, then you have like a medium day the next time you press that's about 3 by 5, and it's a middle ground in here. And then you do the singles again and the volume day, and you can track it up that way too. Just know that like we're fairly rigid up front with the pressing, and then that can morph very quickly into intermediate programming. I encourage you, make the changes in the presses pretty soon. Don't try to grind them out because again, you're gonna miss reps on the press and you don't wanna practice that, okay? So that should give you some clarity on how to progress your presses through the novice linear progression into early intermediate training. So I will be talking about the bench next.